honor and a pleasure to invite our very own co-founder of Rex, Mr. Mark Parkinson, globally renowned educationist who's come in all the way from Dubai. He's also received his Karmaveer Puraskar yesterday. Long relationship with Mr. Parkinson, who has kind of been trying to bring about education reforms in the world of education in India. Mr. Mark Parkinson.
Thank you, Jerry, for that introduction. I'm beginning to feel tempted this afternoon that I want to congratulate the organizing team at iCongo for their mind-reading abilities in terms of the way they've put the sequence of speakers together, and the way that there's a certain synchronicity that's passing through, whether it's from I can to I take responsibility. Let's see if we can and if we're ready to take responsibility. Then I want to throw out a challenge that maybe there are some people in this room ready to take up. There's a Russian saying that says, "It takes a village to educate a child." To me, what that means is that the community has to care about the education of every child. That education matters to everyone. That the society and the people within it cannot be dislocated from the schools. And yet, what do we see the reality today? Everyone's ready to mutter, look at the disgusting state of those government schools. Look at the terrible premises. Look at the terrible conditions. Who'd want to send their child there if they had a choice? And for most of us, the fact that we pay our taxes and we pay our education cess, we think we have played our responsibility, we've done our bit when it comes to being the village as far as the education of those children. When we talk about the state of Indian schools, what are we talking about? Well, by example, I want to share a few figures. There are 10.75 lakh government elementary schools, of which 1.28 lakh have no toilets, and in 15 to 35% of cases where there are toilets, they are non-functional. So what happens when the children want to go to the toilet? They go home. It can be understood that the temptation is pretty strong not to worry about coming back afterwards. And in the case of girls, of course, as soon as they start to menstruate, they stop attending school because the embarrassment and the potential embarrassment is just too great. Vast numbers of these schools where the midday meals are prepared and cooked in the open, on open fires where the smoke then billows straight into the classrooms. There were schemes where sheds were meant to be built and the cooking was going to happen inside those sheds. But the sheds never got completed. I've seen and experienced these things for myself. If anyone here has never been to Mewat, Mewat is such a short distance from where we are now, standing in the capital city of the country. And yet, just such a short distance away, all of these things are right there on the doorstep. So close to the national capital. In total terms, the education system is vast, nearly over 26 lakh schools. The conditions in low-cost private schools are really not that much better. What else are these schools faced with? Many of them have no boundary walls, which means the school grounds are subject to open defecation, groups of people gambling, and other inappropriate actions. I visited a number of schools, and in school after school after school, there was one classroom which was locked up, and when you looked through the broken window, what you'd see is the reason that classroom was locked is because that was where all the broken furniture was stored. And there'd be a room full of broken furniture. In one case, a project spent 500 rupees and had that room emptied and all the furniture repaired and back in action so that children didn't have to sit on the floor. So when we look at those schools, the state of the roofs, the ceilings, the walls, the windows and doors, the washrooms, and this is before we even start to think about the state of or the quality of the education that happens in those places. All of this didn't happen overnight. It didn't come to be overnight. But what I want to say, in the words of Einstein, is we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Waiting for these things to solve themselves isn't going to happen. And so, when we talk about ideas for action, I believe that if we go and look hard enough, we can find precedent for action anywhere if we go and look hard enough. And in this case, I think I might have found something. Imagine for a moment, it's May the 20th, 2013. A small rural school just on the edge of a city. It's a hive of activity. A group of soldiers are clambering across the roof, repairing it, repairing a hole. Another group outside the building are repairing broken chairs. Another group are going around stripping old election posters off the walls of the school before they're going to repaint them. Where was all this happening? In the Philippines. The program is known as Brigada Eskwela, and it's now about to go into its 11th year. Brigada Eskwela basically translates as cleanup brigades or cleanup squads. And what they do every year, 2 weeks before the schools reopen after the summer vacation, in hundreds of thousands of schools across their country, they form these squads. No money is taken. Input is taken in kind, in labor, and materials. There's a nodal operating or task force that oversees the project for the whole country, coordinating the efforts, amongst other things, of 8 different ministries, including the National Defense and the police. As I said, donations only in kind, labor and manpower. But what are the effects? In 2012, 6 million citizens volunteered to be part of Brigada Eskwela. One of the groups who obviously come forward with relish for something like this are the parents whose children are about to join those schools, who are about to go into those schools. The value of materials in 2012 that were given and donated amounted to an equivalent of 22 crore rupees. And to put this in some kind of scale, the Philippines has a population which is about 7.5% the size of India's. What happens if we take that idea and do some possibility thinking? The Indian Army has 1.13 million active personnel. Their motto happens to be service before self, and their stated objective, national security, obviously, and unity. If 10% were mobilized for that 1 week, that's 113,000 personnel. You imagine you form them into teams of 5, you've got 22,600 teams. By the end of the week, 4.5 million man-hours of work. Involve the police, maybe 5% of the police mobilized. That's 85,000 personnel. That would be 17,000 teams, 3.4 million man-hours. Then you bring in other services and departments, you bring in civilians and local volunteers, teachers and their families, parents. Would it make a difference if 10 to 12 million man-hours of work went into those schools? Imagine a week later when the teachers and children walk into those places that are cleanly painted, schools that have a wall where no wall existed before, where some landscaping has started to be done with their grounds. Wouldn't they begin to believe that there is possibility in their life, that they can listen to the kind of things that the speakers before me have been talking about and start to believe that they can? Equivalent kind of funds? Yeah, maybe 200 crore in kind of materials. Wouldn't it begin to make a difference? And wouldn't it be better than saying, oh, but isn't that the government's job? Isn't that what I paid my education cess for? We've said that for too long. We're here to talk ideas for action. Here is an idea for action. And I believe an idea for action that could make a massive difference. Why should people want to do it? Well, let's start with pride, citizenship, a sense of community, a sense of togetherness, and the fact that people in this country would believe that they're doing something instead of just complaining about a problem and hoping that one day a government will come that will magically take that problem away. And ultimately, something good would happen out of self-interest. Why does it matter? The costs. The costs of failing to address the issues for the education in this country are social. Crime rates are rising. Fracturing is happening in the society. The gap between haves and have-nots is becoming greater. And a reliance on the subservience of the have-nots will not go on forever. I believe the have-nots of this country are starting to be angry. And they are starting to ask questions about why don't we have the right to any of those things that the haves have? Why are all the doors closed to us? And the biggest door closed to them is the door of education. Division and lack of cohesion in the society. The issues are also economic. A demographic dividend faces risks of being turned into a demographic time bomb. And political. Time after time, the people of this country pay a massive price for the price of an ignorant and uneducated electorate. And the human. Ultimately, I believe projects like this actually bring out the humanity in all of the society. It's great when we can make things happen on the ground at our own personal level. But I believe that something like Brigada Eskwela offers an opportunity to take something with imagination to scale and do something potentially to have massive influence. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Brigada Eskwela. Sounds like an idea for action. I'll open the floor. If there are any ideas to add strength to that idea for action.
Actually, we are working on your idea, what your idea is. We have started a small campaign in a small town of UP, Bareilly. So the problem we faced, that who will be the leader? We made a group. We organized around 12 teams in 12 different villages. But the main problem was, who will be the leader? Who will lead and who will guide? Because in India, the problem is that we don't want to be volunteer. Either be a team leader or do nothing. So what's your point of view, how to tackle with that problem?
Yeah, it's going to need, I think, but ultimately, I think there might be scope with something like this to actually get government to a position where they say not to do it would cause us more harm and create a situation of greater discomfort than doing it. If a country like the Philippines can do it, a country whose position in terms of economic development is not so massively different to India's, then why not? Yes, I get your point that we need to get past the ego of who wants to be trying to take all the glory. Ultimately, on this one, I think from what I've seen of the way that it works in the Philippines, nobody really seems to be taking the glory. If there is a bit of glory, probably it goes to the education minister. But the fact is that once it's run a few years, he can't even say he's originated it because it goes back 10, it's now going to be into, I think it's 11th year this year. So in that sense, I think you begin to get away from that. At a local level, it's that sense of our school within our community. I find it a little surprising sometimes that communities here can have this building and this land right in the heart of their community and yet feel no sense of ownership for it, no sense of connection to it, even though it sits right in the middle. And when you go to people and you talk to them and they say, and maybe talk to them about why they don't send their children to that school or why they're unhappy when they do, they talk in a fatalistic sense that it's not anything to do with us. We can't get in there. And all it needs is some simple resolution to say, those gates are open and anyone wants to go in there and start cleaning the place up, they can get on with it.
Yeah, let me share my problem. I run a school based on Gandhi's Nahi Taaleem system of education and what is for slum children. And so here the teachers and the students, they have to dust their own chairs, etc. That's what you begin with. And then if the person who cleans doesn't come, the main one, then the teachers and students would do the cleaning. Now, because it is for slum children, when we used to do this cleaning and involve the kids, they come from the slum outside across the road. The parents will come and fight with us that how dare you make our children do bread labor or, work with their hands. So I think in India, my perception is that this will not work, what worked in the Philippines, because here there's something about not working with our hands. You don't want to make your hands dirty. You don't want to go out and clean yourself. And one more example, like Indian temples are so dirty, so dirty. Gurdwaras are very clean, but temples are so dirty, generally. So I myself went to where I live, the temple, and I said, look, I'll volunteer to clean once a week. Wednesday was my off day for 2 hours. Nobody else signed up, and they all laughed at me. Nobody wants to go and clean. We don't want, I don't know if people will agree here, but it's somehow, associated with somehow demeaning yourself. And of course, Gandhi fought for this, his theory of bread labor. So I don't think this will work here. I can't say what does everyone else think.
I understand that there are challenges. I understand there are concerns which are cultural. On the issue about cleaning toilets, I've done it. When I ask an employee to go back and clean a toilet because I don't believe it's clean enough, if necessary, I'll take the cleaning brush and show him how I want it cleaned. I don't think we should be too proud.
Before we all become cynics, I just want to share one small example. I come from a very small place called Landor, which is just 4.5 kilometers from Mussoorie. Mussoorie, as everyone would know, is a very busy tourist-friendly hill station and has a lot of civic issues like any other tourist destination. In Landor, the citizens together have formed a small movement. It's called CLEAN, which stands for Keep Landor's Environment and Ecology Natural. We have adopted the street, which is the highest point of Mussoorie, and I'm very, very proud to say this, that it has street dustbins, which have a schedule of being cleaned every week, scrubbed with soap. And this has got nothing to do with the government. It is the citizens' initiative, and dare somebody come there and dirty the place.
Lovely. Well done. Congratulations. By the way, I understand...
Absolutely agree with you, Sunita, because we've been doing this, getting streets cleaned, and the students have been buying in. So I always say, Bruce Willis used a line in Die Hard. I won't use the word he used, but I'll use the line anyway. He said, assumptions are the mother of all mess-ups. I'm not using the word he used, but that's where we come. We come from our own assumptions and think it won't work. It's taken us 10 years to resist and build this platform where we refuse to go into a 5-star hotel. We don't want that gentry which comes to the 5-star hotel only for the food and the wine and cheese. We want people who come here to learn.
I stand here very proudly to say, Mark, that I'm educating the Harijan children in Gurgaon, in Jarsa village. And I want to tell each one of you here, each one of them have such self-respect. They couldn't care a damn whether they have to clean their own toilets, whether they have to sit on the floor or sit on the floor with us. And Mark, I see tremendous potential in those children.
Absolutely.
Tremendous potential in the children, whether it's art, music, education, And I think, ladies and gentlemen, all of you here, if you'll volunteer like I do for the past 38 years and tap the various organizations that need you all 24/7, we don't have to blame anybody.
Absolutely, Anupamji.
We
Thank
don't
you so
have to
much.
blame
We'll
anybody.
have to just keep it brief
Hold your
also.
flag high and make each one of us proud of those little children who need us. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anupamji.
Good afternoon, Mark.
Hi, afternoon.
I just want to, say something about the madam has said. I don't agree with her for the simple reason there's a practical solution for that. She said it doesn't work in India. It does work if we think about it. In the sense, if the teachers, the response from the parents is coming only because of the inferiority complex which they have because they belong to a lower strata. They feel that their children are being used because they belong to a lower strata. Here, in this case, in this particular case, if the teachers, without telling the children, if they clean every day, there will be one day when the children feel like doing it themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely.
willfully.
You have to be the
It
change.
works.
You have to clean yourself.
Yes, it works in India and I do it myself and there are so many instances where things worked.
And so I would like from everyone here, maybe not right now, but come to me later. Obviously, if this is going to happen in India, it's not going to be by the name of the Philippines program, Brigada Eskvala. What would we call it in India? What would we call it that would actually wake people up and inspire them? What can we call it here?
Yeah, I just want to remove misconception. I have traveled all over India, a lot of temples. Our temples are very, very clean, let me tell you.
My school has got 3,500 students. Once
Okay,
The
please,
sweepers-
Mr. Nair is speaking.
the sweepers who were related to each other had some marriage function in their house, and all of them took leave. So you can just see the condition of the toilet where 3,500 students uses it. And nobody was ready to clean it. Other ayahs refused. Then I thought I will take up the broom, a bucket, and then I started cleaning. The moment I started going to toilet, all the teachers joined me, all the students joined me. It was a big chaos. Then they started cleaning. Then I said, when I took the broom in my hand, I will clean myself at least one toilet. And from that day onwards, what we did, we solved the problem there and there. All the teachers, including principal, cleaned the toilets. But we took a decision in future, whenever we appoint ayahs, office boys, we will appoint sweepers only.
On stage to give away the certificate to Mr. Mark Parkinson.